Alright, yo, welcome back to Combat Arms channel. Now, this video is going to be a big recommendation, mainly from my subscribers and followers over in Finland, so I do appreciate the recommendation. This video is about the Winter War. Now, I've been doing a little bit of a few videos here and there about the Winter War, just to sort of familiarize myself with it, but I think this video will be pretty solid at just, wrapping it up, summarizing it in general. And Sabaton is really awesome. They have a whole bunch of historical videos, and they even turn some like historical things into songs, which is really cool. So it's a cool way of doing it. But yeah, I'm gonna go through this video. I'm not going to stop it unless I want to say something a little bit, long-winded. But I'll just try and let the video run through because it is a little bit on the longer side. But yeah, it should be awesome because I haven't looked into the Winter War as much as I would have liked to. So I imagine this video is going to be pretty solid, especially since y'all have been recommending it so much. So yeah, we'll get right into it.
I'm Indy Nidell.
And I'm Joakim from Sabaton, and this is Sabaton History.
The Soviet Red Army invaded Finland in late 1939 and the Winter War had begun. The Soviets thought the war would be over in a matter of weeks, if not days, but they were wrong, as the Finnish defenders surprised the world with their tenacity.
And our song
Hell yeah.
Talvisota is a tribute to Finnish Sisu.
International observers had a hard time finding a war that seemed more one-sided. The military might of the Soviet Union versus little Finland with a population of some 3.65 million. Without modern equipment, without tanks or even allies, the Finnish seemed doomed from the start. As Soviet troops crossed the border,
Hey, small countries can do a lot. It's all about the discipline, really. Even if you have old equipment, if you have disciplined soldiers, it can get pretty formidable. I can say that. Now, if these music clips get a little too long, I might mute them.
Finland had a troubled
just
history
because YouTube
Russia.
doesn't. I just don't want to get copyrighted or what have you. So.
In December 1917 led to a brutal civil war between the right-wing whites and Bolshevik Reds. This was also a cultural war in which the Finnish nationalistic elements fought against the supporters of Russian influence. This resentment lingered in the Finnish conscience well into the late 1930s when war again loomed across the European continent. There were plenty of people who believed that the antagonistic ideologies of Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union would eventually lead to war between the two, and that Finland may play a role in that future war. In the event of such
Finland's
a war,
it's in an interesting location, especially being so close to the Soviet Union or Russia.
Leningrad, and the Finnish batteries in the Gulf of Finland could threaten Soviet shipping in the Baltic Sea. Now, during the Great War, some Finns had quite close contact with the Germans, and there was even a Finnish Jaeger battalion that saw action with the German army. Stalin saw this possible connection as a real threat, even as the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact went into effect in the wake of German and Soviet.
When you hear
invasions of
Molotov,
Poland.
it's usually not
They
referred to that
Poland,
person anymore. It's
and
usually
no
referred to
buffer
the
state
things that
between the two powers
the Finns
any
used
longer
against the
existed.
Soviets,
So
which is kind of funny.
secured a military presence in Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania just in case. Finland, who declared itself neutral, was next. Soviet Foreign Minister Vyacheslav Molotov presented demands to the Finns that included moving the border further away from Leningrad, which would also involve the Finns giving up their entire defensive line against the Soviets, and the Finns having to relocate up to 10% of their population, leasing the Soviets Hanko Peninsula to use as a military base, and giving them the Rybaki Peninsula.
If they got to the Baltic Sea, that gives them a lot of access to a lot of other countries.
All of this week by week on my World War II channel, where you can get all of the details. But long story short, the Finns said no way, and the Red Army invaded Finland at points along the entire border. Winter had already begun, and it would become one of the coldest in recorded history.
no thanks or no way to the Soviet
Field Marshal
Union
Carl Gustav
is
Emil
not
Mannerheim
easily
came out
done,
of
I can
retirement
imagine.
to take overall command of the Finnish army and knew that the key to the defense of Finland was the Karelian Isthmus, the narrow strip of land between the Gulf of Finland and Lake Ladoga. Since 1932, they had prepared strong lines of defense there between the lakes and marshes, the defenses I mentioned earlier, which the Russian troops now had to attack head on. The boggy ground was no good for Soviet tanks and artillery to cross, and the areas they could cross had been extensively mined.
That looks nightmarish.
The Finnish army was small, yet was strongly motivated by patriotic fervor. They could mobilize maybe a little over 300,000 men, and were equipped with only outdated artillery and machine guns, with the exception of the Finnish-made Suomi submachine gun.
Again, that takes a lot of guts. I mean,
Russians,
if you don't have the same equipment, or if you don't have the same amount of people, it's going to take a lot to send people against all the Soviets.
Against such a small nation, Stalin wanted only a quick war and ordered General Kirill Meretskov, the commander of the Leningrad military district, to conquer Finland in a few weeks. Meretskov planned to do it by Stalin's birthday, December 21st. And yes, I'm aware
making promises,
that date is slightly
can't keep
disputed.
them. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of the cold. I probably would not have done well. But, you know, the Finns, they're used to it, and at the same time, they're defending their home and their territory.
Meretskov would make a two-pronged
you gotta
attempt
respect
to break
that.
the Mannerheim defense line. One force heading straight over the Karelian Isthmus, and another force making a wide swing around Lake Ladoga to outflank the Finnish. In the far north, beyond Lake Ladoga, the Soviet forces marched into nightmarish conditions. They were neither equipped nor trained to fight in the Arctic climate. They were not even camouflaged for the snow, nor were their tanks. The terrain was some of the densest forests in the entire world, with snowdrifts between the trees deeper than a man standing. The area lacked adequate infrastructure, and the troops,
even though a lot of the
confined to
Soviets, the Soviet
roads which they
men
had to follow
didn't really
in long
know
columns.
what they were fighting for,
They
you can
were
kind of feel
perfect
for them.
targets
Just
for Finnish
having someone
ambush.
higher than you
Small
saying, go
platoons
do
of
this.
Finns on skis or snowshoes, wearing
Yeah,
winter camouflage,
You can kind of
constantly
feel for
harassed
them.
the
They didn't
Soviet
really know what
troops,
they were getting into.
raided their supply columns, and operated behind the lines. The Soviet command structure at this time had political commissars issuing orders, and not just military men, which made it very unwieldy, and the troops had been ordered not to withdraw no matter what. This led to the soldiers being isolated by the Finns into small pockets in a hostile territory.
Yeah, you don't want
Finns
to do
called
that
the
when you
pockets
have people
mokhties,
doing
the
guerrilla
word for
warfare
stacked
and doing
fireworks,
like little
like
ambushes
how the
whatnot.
Soviet soldiers were huddled together in defensive positions in freezing temperatures with barely any food through the long nights of northern Finland. Mohti techniques were snipers and mortar teams harassing the trapped soldiers and depriving them of sleep, while stragglers, firewood gatherers, and supply columns were picked off one by one. Slowly but steadily, those
That'll
Mohtis
drive you
shrunk
mad.
as the Russian soldiers
You don't have any
starved
firewood or
or
anything.
froze to death until they were weak enough for assault companies to finish them off. This had
I'm
the
probably
added
gonna censor
bonus of
those,
preserving ammunition,
yeah,
salvaging the
YouTube
Russian
doesn't like
weapons,
that.
and winning without costly direct engagement.
Yeah, so the Finns were definitely like using tactics that the Soviets weren't really expecting, and with the tenacity that they were fighting with, yeah, it must have been pretty unmotivating for those Soviets to be going against, you know, forces
the
like
Finnish
that.
defenses of the Mannerheim line were strong, and that, together with the knowledge of the terrain and with having skilled NCOs trained in small group tactics, they could outmaneuver the Soviets, even heavily outnumbered. But they still lacked adequate weapons, especially weapons to deal with the Soviet tanks. One way was to sneak up to a tank and throw an explosive cocktail of gasoline, kerosene,
There it
and
is.
tar at it, hoping to ignite the machinery. They named it the Molotov cocktail after the Soviet foreign minister. He had said that the Soviet bombers would only drop food supplies, not bombs. When bombs were, in fact, dropped, they were called Molotov bread baskets. Molotov cocktails had, in fact, been used earlier in the Spanish Civil War, but it was here they got their name. Finnish humor did indeed
You give them a bread basket, they're going to give you a cocktail.
Soviet High Command grew frustrated with the lack of progress, but this came to a large degree from insufficient skills in organization and coordination between the Russian forces. Even though they had a big advantage in armor, artillery, and aircraft, they could not combine arms efficiently. The more mobile Finns could thus react to each threat separately and concentrate their small forces on where the Soviets attacked next. Throughout December 1939,
Yeah, you got to make sure you have the
Finns
combined arms
consistently
set up,
and
or else it's just going to be
devastatingly defeated
no
the
one
Red
supporting
Army.
other people,
But in the
people
long
just
run,
trying to find what
They
to
could not
do.
hope To beat
And
the entire
there's definitely always
USSR's
people
military,
that would need a
help from
little
other nations
tank
was
support,
often
artillery
promised,
support,
but
or what
rarely
have you.
delivered, though volunteers from all around the world arrived and in many cases fought. With Semyon Timoshenko and Georgy Zhukov now in charge as 1940 began, the Red Army underwent a period of retraining for winter war and using combined operations. By mid-February, the
They had to
Mannerheim line
completely
was
retrain
broken, and in
them
the early hours of March
just to be able to
13,
go against the
1940,
Finns.
Finland
That
and
goes
the
to show how
USSR
effective they were.
signed the treaty that ended Talvisota.
So Talvisota, I guess that's what they call the Winter War.
The Soviets gained all the concessions they had asked for and more, but at what cost? The Finns had lost some 25,000 killed and maybe another 50,000 wounded, over 2% of their population in just 105 days. But the Soviets had taken over 200,000 casualties according to their own estimate, but they may have had as many as 250,000 men killed, not even counting the wounded.
That's
The
crazy.
Winter War was a serious blow to Soviet pride.
Yeah, if you don't have that combined
The
arms
outside
setup or
world now
communication,
believed
it
the
can get
USSR
very
to be
rough like that.
Just a paper tiger. This would heavily influence Hitler's decision to soon wage war against the Soviets, and would also
I'm gonna have to
influence
censor
Finland's
that.
decision to fight on Germany's
Nazis and
side
YouTube
in
don't
the
mix.
continuation war.
Sorry.
Britain and France had so cynically tried to prolong the Winter War for their own agenda, having an excuse to land troops in Norway to prevent iron supplies to Germany, and yet not providing real assistance at all, that Finland lost all trust in the Allies. They had truly fought, and for a time beat badly, one of the mightiest nations on earth, with an army.
Yeah, I mean, if you
that
have
in
a
many
small
ways
nation that's really
was
putting
just
up a good
homemade.
fight against the Soviets, you should probably help them out a little bit more. It's a pretty good investment, I would say. But
Now, you mentioned Sisu at the beginning.
Yes.
What is Sisu?
Well, I guess it's a mentality Finns have, resilience, hardiness.
he's a big dude.
Quite impressive, actually.
Well, I mean,
I like
you
his
can't-
tattoos.
You cannot fault them for their
So
bravery.
Sisu?
in their war.
Is that what he
Nobody
said?
can do that, and that's interesting because Finland, you know.
I wonder if that's
international
still
character.
a
I mean,
thing in Finland.
Everything's a generalization, but that Sisu mentality, and there's also the
If
heavy
it
metal
is,
thing.
can you give me a little more
Yeah,
context?
Actually, one of the few
Sisu.
places in the
those
world
from
where heavy
Finland.
metal is not a small subgenre, you know?
It's not the extra thing that the
No.
weirdos listen
I
to.
mean, there are metal bands, Finnish metal bands, that will whip Madonna off the charts, you know, if they release an album.
That's pretty cool. So all you metal bands out there in the world, go to Finland.
Yeah, get your asses over there.
But you guys, how often do you guys play in Finland?
Not enough.
Yeah, but it's so close to Sweden.
Yeah, and it took us a while to get there as well. I mean, I think we'd been going on for like 8 or 9 years as a band before we actually made it to Finland.
Wow.
Which is kind of weird because we'd been, you know, all over Europe at that point. But
And
not to
the
Finland.
boat to Finland is so.
So I wonder if his actual
Well,
band
that's
is
the
like
first time
all
we really hung out
historical
after the
stuff
planning
or what
festival.
have you.
On the boat to Finland.
Yes,
Yeah.
on the boat to Finland.
I mean, history can get pretty metal, so you have some good topics to choose
On the
from.
boat to Finland, they serve a lot of cocktails.
Oh, yes, they do.
Now you have a special cocktail.
Yes, a very, very special one. One served for Mr. Molotov, actually.
One of the actual original Molotov cocktails from the Winter War.
Yes.
That was not exploded or something.
It was made from these Yalovina bottles.
That's
I think that's
awesome.
fantastic. Wow. With the whole.
Yeah, we have a
band.
lot of stuff like that in our rehearsal space. I guess we'll bring it for the show sometime. Some stuff.
That's pretty metal, not gonna lie.
Talvisolta.
Okay, yeah, so that's pretty much the end of that video. That was very awesome. Like, honestly, it's what a 13-minute video just flew by. So yeah, they do a very good job of summarizing things, sort of putting it step by step, and I can trust they're being pretty accurate with the amount of detail they actually put into it. But yeah, I mean, this is an awesome channel. If y'all aren't familiar with their channel, they have a lot of good stuff, not just about Finland or what have you. They have stuff about, you know, historical events from all over. Very cool stuff. I might do some more reaction videos from them. You know, if they don't copyright claim me or anything, please don't. But yeah, if they do, if they don't, that would be awesome because they have some solid videos, and I think y'all could definitely appreciate them. But yeah, if you have any other recommendations, definitely let me know. Again, with anything military, with anything history, I'm always down to hear whatever you guys have to recommend. Because as far as I've seen so far, the recommendations are awesome. You guys haven't steered me wrong, so I can appreciate that. But yeah, if y'all like the video, definitely feel free to give me a like. If you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing, and also hit the little bell so you can get notifications when I actually do upload videos. And I try and do it every 3 days, but sometimes they don't show up in the feed as they should. So yeah, it definitely helps me out, and I hope you guys will continue to watch. But that is it for this video, so I will see you all in the next one.